Just as the monsoon is a yearly occurrence, the conversation about what is covered in motor insurance and what is not is also a yearly occurrence. But this time is important to talk about because the delay in monsoons and then the subsequent downpour that you've seen, particularly in places like Mumbai, has caused a lot of problems with vehicles getting submerged, and then when you start it up, it doesn't start for good reason. There could be electrical damage, but is that covered in motor insurance? And what do you need to pay attention to, particularly in this season? Sanjiv Bajaj, Joint Chairman and Managing Director of Bajaj Capital, joining me on this conversation. Sanjiv, thanks so much for taking the time. And I know that I've had this conversation with you in the past, but it's important to have it periodically. First, let me ask you, how is the product, which is motor insurance, how is it constructed? What does it cover and what does it not?
See, a typical motor insurance is a very flexible product. So you can add in things, you can remove things. So, whenever you're buying motor insurance, let's not be penny wise, pound foolish. You're buying it for the sake of protecting your vehicle and being fully protected. So you asked me this question, will water damage be covered or not? So this is only will be covered if you have taken the add-on for covering your engine through water damage. And that is a huge expense. Like my own car, last time it got stuck in a water logging and I ended up paying 17 lakh rupees for an engine replacement. So, so you have to be very, very careful, and you have to make sure that your policy covers water logging and water damage to the engine.
Okay. Sanjiv, let me ask you this then. What is the absolute base cover? And then as you pointed out, it's a very nimble, flexible product. You can build on that. So what I wanted to get at is, what is the basic product? What does it cover? And then we'll talk about the add-ons that you can add.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. This is so important, but nobody's asked me till now. So the basic product is called the TPD, the third party liability cover. So what it covers is that if your car ends up hitting someone, then it covers that. And the kind of compensation you have to pay for that person. So this is basically what is required by the law. You cannot drive a car without this. Above this comes OD, which is called own damage, where when you have an accident, you bang into someone or somebody bangs into you. That is the next cover. The third thing you must ensure is take a zero depreciation. See, typical what happens, plastic parts depreciate very, very aggressively. So there are two types of policies available, which is if you take a normal OD policy, it will give you the depreciated value of the parts. So imagine your bumper gets broken after 3 years. So it will put 50% depreciation on the cost of the bumper. So you may end up spending, the claim may be 1.5 lakhs, but you'll only get 75,000-80,000 rupees because you are getting the depreciated value. So zero depreciation is a next important add-on. Then the water logging and the engine damage, because that itself is a very, very large expense, because today, in case the engine gets damaged on water logging, you actually have to change the engine. Okay, so it's a big expense. So the water logging engine damage is the next important cover. Then there is also a beautiful cover called return to invoice. So what it says, suppose you bought a car for 20 lakh rupees after you have driven it for 5 years. The current IDV or insurance declared value is 9 lakh rupees. Now car gets stolen. Now you're used to driving a car that used to be 20 lakhs 5 years ago. You don't want to buy a car which is 9 lakh today. That's the claim you get. Okay, so what a return to invoice will do is, if that equivalent car is available for 23 lakh rupees today or 21 lakh rupees, it will pay you that amount. It will pay you the amount of a brand new car of an equivalent value. Okay, so that return to invoice is very important. Then you have tubeless tires. You have to cover your tires separately. Today, keys in some high-end cars are worth anything between 7,000 to 50,000 rupees.
Yeah.
So you have to cover the key loss.
I discovered this, Sanjeev ji. I lost one of two keys in my car, and I've chosen to have just one key because I'm like, I don't want to buy a second key. It's a little too expensive. But having said that, I do want to ask you about a couple of these things. And you've described this very well, right? Which is that in a situation where there is an accident and somebody has banged into you, that's where the third party comes into play. But I've often noticed that people don't use it, right? You take your car to the service station and they ask you what happened, and you say, oh, I got into an accident, and you claim the own damage. Why is it that people don't claim that third-party damage when there is somebody else at fault?
No, no, that is not third-party coverage. See, third party is slightly different.
Okay.
Third party, like you take your car and you have an accident and you hit two people and they have to be taken for a hospital and they get disabled or they die. The compensation you have to pay to their family.
Okay. Okay, so it's not for damage to the vehicle. It is damage to the person.
Yeah. So and your damage to the vehicle will get covered in what we call the OD.
Got it.
Own damage.
So
but then own damage, but the best way to do it is somebody banged into your car, then you should recover from that person. You should give that number. But then the process becomes longer because you have to file an FIR and you have to hope that that guy has insurance.
No, of course.
If that guy doesn't have insurance, then it won't pay you.
No, but then it's mandated by law for everyone to have insurance. So that's the base assumption that you would make.
Yeah,
but Sanjeev,
that's a better process to follow.
Yeah.
That you give the car number, the insurance company will try to claim from that guy's insurance company. If he is not covered, then they will pay from themselves.
Because in places like the UK, for example, because I know that this happens, if something has happened, if your car scraped some other car, they just exchange the numbers and they say, okay, insurance will take care of it. It's not that simple here, right?
No, it's actually that simple, but most of us choose not to do it because here you have to do the FIR and other stuff, which are slightly more cumbersome processes. And also you don't want to get into a fight. Because the point is that, here the road rage is also a huge problem.
Yeah, it is.
You don't want to actually get down, you don't know what kind of person is he, what kind of move.
Safety first. So, Safety first. Yeah. Sanjiv, so the next question that I have is, in the situation where, even in the outskirts of Mumbai, right, in the extended suburbs, you're talking about Vasai and Virar, where you've had, just over the course of the last 3 days, a situation where there's water up to the shoulder and lights have gone and all of that has happened, and obviously vehicles have gotten submerged. So in that situation, is that covered by motor insurance? Because it's not a situation where you were driving, your vehicle was stationary. So what is the kind of approach that an insurance company would have?
No, it is covered. See, as long as you have a proper coverage available, just for water logging, you have an additional add-on, which is called engine damage. But typically, if your car is parked and a tree falls on it, it should be covered.
It should be covered. Okay. So you mentioned zero dep, which is zero depreciation, an important add-on, particularly in the early years of your car. The question that I have is, at what point does that zero depreciation stop having value, Sanjiv? Because after your car becomes a certain number of years old, maybe it doesn't make sense for you to take it anymore?
Oh, zero dep is always adds value as long as it is available. Okay. But generally, if your car is more than 5 years old, that it will be very difficult to get it.
Okay.
Because you will need a very, very good insurance broker to be able to get it for you. So it's very difficult to get. But if you are able to get it, then you should always take a zero dep, because that will give you the most comprehensive coverage.
Okay. Sanjiv, just the last part of this conversation, which is, and you've described all of this so well, is that you've been looking at this space for so long. So one, how are the premiums decided beyond, of course, your claims that you've made, right? If you've made claims during the year, there's a possibility that that could affect your premium the next year. But this is a governed subject. And so you've not seen an increase in certain components of motor insurance for a while. That's expected to come to pass. So how is the pricing of motor insurance done?
The motor insurance, a part of it is fixed price, which is mostly the TPD. but otherwise it's all as per the company's claim experience. So you have to be careful, and each company offers different rates for different cars in different cities. Okay, so it also depends on the dealer. If suppose there is a dealer who's been, overhyping the claims, and the payout becomes very high for that car in that city, so that the coverage for that car in that city may be much more expensive than in another city like Bombay, where there are many more dealers. So you have to keep those things in mind if you're conscious about insurance, and to a certain level, it happens, especially in the premium segment where there are very limited dealers. Then a lot of people actually in smaller cities face this problem, because for that particular car, that particular model, the insurance price for especially zero dep and return to invoice may be very high, because the local dealer has been, overcharging on the service and repairs.
Yeah, that's a fair point. So those are the tips and tricks that you can follow. Sanjiv, thanks so much for taking the time. Pleasure speaking with you as always.
My pleasure. It's my pleasure to be there with you.
Right, and that brings us to the end of this edition of Your Money Matters. Let us know what you think and stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.